Swami sir, can I say that this is one of the biggest and perhaps a hallmark budget in the history of Indian, Indian budgets when it comes to direct taxes? Swami sir.
Yes. Why? That will be a great exaggeration. There were very, very major changes in Manmohan Singh's time when he was finance minister. This is just a break of to the middle class. You know, if you look at Chidambaram's thing, when he brought down the maximum income tax rate from 40% to 30%, that was much more dramatic, I think. So, I mean, don't exaggerate it. There is a big boost for the middle class. And there is a big boost for Bihar. These are the two characteristics of the budget. The total income tax thing is going 1 lakh crores, which is about zero. I mean, it is a large amount of money, but it is still only about 0.2 or 0.3% of GDP.
Okay. Swami sir, what about the other aspect of the budget, which is in terms of assumptions? Fiscal deficit number projected to be below 4.5. The tax assumptions, looking at the way that GDP has slowed down, are they looking reasonable? What about the budget arithmetic?
I would say that bringing it, I mean, the fact that last year was 4.8 against the budget target of 4.9 is commendable. To reduce it to 4.4% this year is also commendable. It means she has met her 5-year target of reducing it from 9.2 to below 4.5. And she seems to think she has so much headroom that she can also make a big middle class benefit. I hope she is right. I mean, I do not, we will have to look in detail into the assumptions of the income tax receipts and so on in the coming year. What are the assumptions? I would simply say that I do not think this was a wise move. You see, in most countries, you will find that the tax exemption limit is round about the per capita income level. Per capita income level would be about 2.5 lakhs. And we are having an exemption limit of 12 lakhs. So really, I think, we are keeping the tax payments to a very small segment of the population. You have greatly shrunk the tax base by doing this. At a time when Mr. Trump is playing tricks and there are possibilities of the tax revenue estimates going haywire, I think this is a risk, an unwarranted gamble. It may come true, it may come off. Some gambles do pay. But I would say that, it surprises me, and I think the tax exemption limit, as an economist, has now become too high.
Okay. I'm not going to complain.
Nothing pleases one.
I mean, see, Aisha, I can argue back and say that the need of the hour, was it to really recognize there is a problem in consumption? The answer to that is yes, because up until now, this entire focus on expenditure, how logical it may be, how correct it would be, really has not yielded you the desired returns, looking at the way economy has become K-shaped and, post-COVID. So I think something had to be done in terms of an acknowledgement to share tax rate cut. I'll get the Deloitte view first and then I'll go to the market view. Anything which catches your attention?
So, just to react to the change in the limits and the 12 lakh, benefit that's being given out, personally, I think it's a good thing. I think on an overall basis, it does come to a realization that our income levels are rising. We've got to also recognize that. And second is, it also gives an impetus to bring a lot of people who are probably not filing a tax return to actually come under the net. So I feel as long as we continue to significantly expand our tax base in the longer term, I feel that this time the government actually had allowance to give away something to personal taxpayers. The latest figures that we saw from December show personal tax collections to going up almost 34%. So if that's the tide in which collections are growing, I think we have a little wriggle room to give it away. The one thing that really stood out for me from business is something that we've been waiting for a really long time for, and that is this rationalization around TDS and TCS. It's been a pain point for industry for a long time, especially on things like buying and selling of goods, where there was a TDS and TCS being in this, and it was a very small rate, 0.1%, but the amount of paperwork and the amount of effort that gets generated, and the rationale which the government had used for imposing it was to track transactions. By now ensuring that these transactions only where PAN is not available, or I would have thought they would have said perhaps a GST is not available, that's the ones they should be tracking, and that's what they have decided to do. So I personally think that's a very good move.
Okay. Mr. Gopalan, I'm just coming to you, sir, but I just want to mark FMCG auto. Money more in the hand of consumer means indirectly small ticket items, middle ticket items, not luxury, but that will see a renewed vigor. So rightly so, the short-term markets are about sentiment and they are reacting to the sentiment, so FMCG index is up. The uptick is visible in stocks like Nestle, HUL, Maruti, that entire gambit.
Bajaj Auto, M&M, Unilever, they are the only gainers
But capital expenditure numbers have not been so great. So could the capex story start reversing? 2021 post-COVID, that marked as a revival in the capex cycle, and then you had defense and railways and everything flying. Could this be marking the turn for some of the consumption stocks? Let's look at some of the capex stocks, and let's look at L&T, ABB, Siemens, railways, defense, a whole gamut of them, and where they are moving right now. It's not easy to find out why, because capex targets have not been kept very, very big. Nilesh, is the reaction justified so far?
Yeah, I think so. This clearly is a budget which favors consumption. Undoubtedly, that was the need of the hour. That's getting addressed. Like what we said, the tax cuts, I think raising exemption limits, I think that's quite phenomenal. It's going to leave a lot of money in the hands of the middle class, so that's clearly a boost. The second aspect essentially is also the fiscal deficit being lowered to 4.4%. I think that's quite phenomenal. This will help interest rates to kind of come off, reduce the cost of capital, and in turn actually act as a catalyst or a booster for investments to kind of come in. So while probably the allocation to capital expenditure has probably been lower versus expectations, but indirectly, I still think the budget really creates the platform for cost of capital to come down and spending on infrastructure and investment to basically kickstart.
Bala, 30 seconds, what changes in the portfolios for you? Because the tilt of the government changes in terms of expenditure to consumption. That's a big tilt, and that's a big change portfolio managers may be prompted to do. Would you be leaning not like right but towards left?
No, definitely I think as Nilesh mentioned, and it's echoed by everyone, definitely the budget is more focused towards consumption. See, capex is something on number. They have been doing it for almost 1.5 years. We have seen a significant pickup coming from private sector capex. If you take the capex numbers adjusted for private sectors, I am sure the number will be higher than the last 2 years' numbers from overall spending point of view. Therefore, that's not something which I think one should worry about it. But clearly there was a need for boosting the consumption. There is a need for boosting the agriculture economy by focusing on agricultural sectors, and rural income has to also rise. I think the combined the taxation, the multiplier effect of that, if you see, I think the 1 lakh crore number that comes, if we take the multiplier effect of this, if we take money multiplier effect, it will go down anywhere between 3 to 4 lakh crores kind of numbers will come, more money in the hands of people, money multiplier effect increases, whether it is for meeting EMI payment or making, buying goods and services and so on and so forth. I think it can boost. I think from a portfolio point of view, definitely the consumer durable sectors have actually disappointed for quite some time. So at least money will have something to smile about.
That is the point, and Punju is just getting ready. Maybe this question I'll ask you. I just want to make a broader point for the audience here is that 2021, government tilt moved towards expenditure. We will spend and stimulate the economy. They've done that. Now, will they allow people to save more via tax and then stimulate the economy in terms of consumption? Now, markets will always go what government is doing. So, are we at that turn where you would suddenly say FMCG, white goods, hotels, that entire, I have more money, I will spend more kind of an economy? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think
you must be happy. You can
this
just
1 lakh crores given away
in the morning.
It's going
I
to
bought a lot of, good. I was bullish on consumption, Nikunj, before the budget speech. Come on, do it. It'll look very nice.
No, it's a significant thing, when 1 lakh crores given away to the middle
I'm not
class.
telling Bala to do it because Bala ka mujh safed ho gaya. Okay, Mr. R. Gopalan is also ready. Yeah, Punja, why don't you come into a point? I'm going to be R. Gopalan after this. Yeah, you wanted to finish that point?
Yeah. See, some some symptoms of simplification she was mentioning about. I think removing that TDS, TCS thing as he was putting, I think there is some effort towards simplification and, kind of things going on. But we need much more bigger steps on macro level for simplification of taxation. And reducing litigation is very, very important. I think in the last 7-8 years, the litigation have gone up something like 3 times, tax related. So this is not a healthy thing. The simplification means the litigation should come down. That is not happening. We should do something very seriously about it.
Let's wait for the fine print. Mr. R. Gopalan is ready, right?
Yeah.
You want to go to him?
Yeah, he's right there.
Oh, he's right there. Okay. Mr. Gopalan, good afternoon again, sir. Thank you for joining us. Give me 3 headlines, Mr. Gopalan, which caught your attention. And in what prism, Mr. Gopalan, you would say this is a good budget, average budget, or a okay budget? Mr. Gopalan.
So let me come with the components of the budget. What attracted me was, of course, the income tax slabs and the taxation rates they had announced, which will put some money in the hands of the middle class people. Second, I was impressed totally by the ease of doing business, the regulations. They are trying to ensure that it is on a trust basis, trust and verify basis, rather than verify and then do the things. Well, that's a real change in attitude of government, which I think is fantastic in my view. That is number 2. And number 3, on the direct taxes, the new bill which they are planning to get, I wish they come up with very, very fast. They said they'll do it in 6 months. So obviously, they're going to take more time. As long as they come up with it, that in my view is going to be very, very good. So what will be the effect of all this? The effect of all this is that probably there will be little bit more investment flow. There will be more consumption of both consumer durables and consumer non-durables. And I hope that TDS and TCS for a middle class viewpoint will be very, very beneficial for the people. So these are the 3 important things that comes, of my mind to begin with. Of course, until you go through all that, the 4th point as an economist, I would say is that keeping the, debt levels, keeping the, FD levels at whatever they have promised and reducing the debt to GDP in a very gradual way, that will help in ensuring that the interest rates are really, reasonable, and which will also mean that there is a possibility that, your, GSEP rates will come down. As a result, the cost of funds for various people will also come down. And that is a good way of stimulating the economy in my view. And the rating agencies outside the world will certainly look at it a lot more favorably.
Swami sir, you've got 15 minutes already to look at the budget. And they say 15 minutes is a lot for Swami sir to really analyze something thread and bare. So 15 minutes, Swami sir, are over. Now let's get your verdict.
My verdict is, I'm afraid, I do not think this budget has gone in the right direction. It's a very good thing that you brought down the fiscal deficit to 4.4. This was a major achievement over the last 5 years. But how have you achieved this particular thing? Earlier on, she used to boast about how much I've increased capex by. This time she's completely silent. So the money that used to go into capex, this time has gone into this tax cut for the middle class. Now, I want to emphasize that, we are giving too high SOPs for the middle class. The tax exemption limit in a very large number of countries tends to be round about the per capita income. Now, per capita incomes in India is about 2.5 lakhs. But the tax exemption limit is 12 lakhs, now almost 5 times as much as this. So I would say what we have done is we have shrunk the tax base. The need, I think, is for the tax base to get bigger and bigger. That is not happening. What is happening is you're shrinking it and putting much more of the burden just on the larger section. I can understand that this helps in electoral terms for the BJP, but I do not think it's a good thing. The other thing I will point out that there were at least 5 different measures for Bihar. So very clearly this is also budget made with an eye on the coming state election, Bihar, which is an important one. And out there, they're going to have greenfield airports, expansion of Patna Airport, West Kosi Canal, focus on Buddhism and tourism. Well, of course, Bodh Gaya is one of the very biggest. A national institution of food processing, support for makhanas, which is a Bihar specialty. And they're going to expand the Patna IIT. So, I mean, you will find this is the only state on which there is so much focus in this particular budget. To that extent, it's political. Whether all these things will make a significant difference to the outcome, I cannot say. So I will say that, the good thing about the budget is fiscal consolidation. I am not happy with the rise in the exemption limit, which has shrunk India's tax base. The emphasis on Bihar, I will smile and say this is the kind of thing we expect. Overall, there is no mention of Donald Trump. There is no mention of the possible disasters that can come. Now, I understand that you cannot provide. We do not know what is going to happen. But should there not have been a mention? Should we not have been keeping our ammunition in reserve just in case something went wrong? So I would have expected something on that. There is nothing on that either.
One point which critics would say that a 15% growth assumed in tax revenue, if the giveaways are added back, means that the growth assumptions are very aggressive. How is it that you would, sort of ban the critics, if you will, with this kind of an assumption or thought process? Mr. Gopalan?
Well, I mean, once again, the question of buoyancy will always be there. The effect, the way in which they are able to collect the money based on technology, the returns filed. Well, obviously, out of 8 crore returns filed, 3 crore returns are only paying tax and the rest are not paying tax. But the point also remains that with the technological advancement, I think they should be in a position to expand the tax base. Mr. Swami feels that, by giving exemption, the tax base will go down. But the point is that if you are able to get as many people, more people to file the returns, obviously some way in which you will be in a position to know what exactly the movement is. And after all, against, let us say, about 42 lakh crores of total expenditure, roughly, including borrowings, that's the amount of revenue you get. So 1 lakh crore, I don't know how much difference it will make, but I also get the point that that will be standing in the way of capital expenditure. But there is a limit on the absorption of capital expenditure. The government machinery cannot absorb so much of capital expenditure. This year, of course, there are different reasons, but I also see down the line, I see a lot of capability issues in absorbing that kind of a capital expenditure. You see the capital expenditure, bulk of it goes to railways, on this thing, and therefore roads, look at them. How much more you can do on this? The government's ability to do is very, very important. So, all in all, I have a feeling that under the circumstances, this is reasonable.
Right. It's a great point, Mr. Gopalan. I'm just going to mark markets for a minute to say that point which Nilesh, Bala, Punjo, everyone's talking about, that are we at that turn now? See, money will increase in the hand of taxpayer. India's tax collection has been a real success story. So is there a turn? We first think that, okay, more money means more FMCG. No, more money means also more cars. More money means also more travel. More money means also, more luxury consumption, more white goods, more motorcycles. The millennial consumes very differently, but they spend very differently. So is that changing? Of course it is. Bajaj Auto is up. Trent is up. Mahindra & Mahindra is up, Britannia is up, Maruti is up, Nestle is up. What about hotels? There are a lot of travel listed companies now. What about Voltas? What about white goods? Is the trend now changing in favor of what could be called as the expenditure economy to the consumption economy? Will the capex, the sea of capex, will it become sea of consumption? So let's look at some of the capex stocks now, which is, what do we have in terms of ABB, Siemens, L&T? What do we have in terms of railways, defense? What do we have in terms of shipyard? So ABB is down, Siemens is down, shipyard companies are down, Reliance, railway stocks are down, defense stocks are down. So Nilesh, the C of capex now becomes C of consumption. Is that the the third C, which is capital market, should focus on?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, capital markets should do well irrespective of whether it's capex or consumer goods. It's all a function of how capital markets and how markets kind of react to that. So I think clearly that's a space which will anyway is in for a structural long-term bull market. I mean, if India is in a long-term bull market, the capital market related side of the market is bound to do well. The tailwinds are very, very strong, irrespective of whether it is capital goods or consumption.
So, and another question, Aisha, maybe we will take it forward, is that the expenditure number is not bad. It is not that they're contracting the expenditure cycle. The government's ability to digest more than 10.5 lakh crore is never there. So 11 lakh number is very okay. So today there is green for consumption and there is red for capex. Monday, maybe logic will come back saying that, okay, there is still the capital expenditure wheel which is working. So can that also happen? Monday morning it could be back to capex, back to expenditure dominated stocks.
The long-term trajectory is very, very clear. See,
finally, we are on agreement.
The recent slowdown in the economy or some pockets in the consumption, I think this is nothing but cyclical. Structurally, everything is fine. The big bull market for India and our economy is definitely intact. There is no doubt about it. But
ready. He said some time because he was preparing for the budget song.
Oh.
And Vijay bhai, I know you are late because आपकी सुर और ताल मैच नहीं हुई थी गाने की.
Yes,
so किससे चालू करे, बजट के गाने से?
नहीं अभी बजट के गाने से गाने वाने बहुत हो गए सर, गाने का कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता है, मैडम सुनते नहीं है, क्या करेंगे.
So what is the highlight for you, Mr. Kedia, in this budget? The focus is consumption, not capex. Will you change the way you invest? Because in your portfolio, you have a combination of both consumption and capex. Atul Auto is capex, Atul Auto is consumption, and Tejas is capex. What will you change?
No, I don't think I'm going to change anything as it is. My view in the market has not changed. I think still whatever like you guys are talking about, and whatever that 12 lakhs ka limit, whatever they have done, I think it is not enough to give momentum to a $4 trillion economy. This is what I personally feel. And you know that, you understand this thing, that my knowledge is very limited to all this economy and all. So, but I don't think it is going to give any boost to this market, which is already weak.
But the fact that the tone, Mr. Kedia, is towards more money in the hands of taxpayer, and that is a lovely reality. 12 lakh rupees on an average 5 to 7,000 rupees will certainly move in everyone's hand. What will change because of this?
I don't think so. I don't think it is going to have any meaningful change. Ultimately, it is, they are talking about some 1 lakh crore in the in the hand of people. I don't think it is going to change anything so far as stock market is concerned, or any meaningful changes. You see, ultimately, Nikunj bhai, what I understand that now we shouldn't think about this. We shouldn't talk about in 1 lakh crore and 50,000 crore and all these things. If India really, if we are really trying to become a $30-40 trillion economy, then we have to talk in $1 trillion only, you know. So this 1 lakh 2 lakh crore से कुछ होने वाला नहीं इस कंट्री के अंदर में. हमको बड़ा सोचना पड़ेगा, इमेजिनेशन के बाहर बातें करनी पड़ेगी, तब हम जाकर 30-40 ट्रिलियन डॉलर की इकोनॉमी बनेंगे.
Okay, I'm just going to get the last word from Swami. Swami, it's always your first word, Swami sir, and it is always your last word on ET Now after budget, so we'll keep it that way. Your last word, you are not excited about the budget, so tomorrow morning or Monday morning when markets open, once today's budget excitement is over, what should they focus on? Swami sir, last word.
As far as what should the markets focus on, or what should I focus on?
Will focus on what you will focus on. Ultimately, markets will take a cue from that.
Okay. No, my last word is, this is a budget which is a fiscal consolidation. Fiscal consolidation is not a big spending budget. I mean, please, you need to, the first point is that. Second, instead of increasing capex as in last budgets, they are encouraging consumption. It is, you know, you've taken away from Peter to pay Paul. The notion that aggregate spending is going to go up in a big way is, I think, mistaken. But for me, the fact that I'm disappointed at the shrinkage of the tax base, And I'm disappointed that there is no mention of Mr. Donald Trump. So to my mind, there is not enough in the budget to say this is not a time for excitement, this is not a time for splurging, let us be careful, let us wait and watch. I mean, this is a budget presented at a time of slumping stock markets and slumping rupee value. No mention of that in the budget or what may be done about it. And in some sense, it's because, as I said, what Mr. Trump says tomorrow may be more important than what Nirmala Sitharaman has just said today, as far as the markets are concerned. So this is a time for sobriety, this is a time for caution. Because as I said, the real thing that matters, as I said, don't think that there is a huge boost to consumption when you just shifted from capex to this, because even capex would result in salaries and the Keynesian multiplier effect. So I would say that let us be sober about this. Don't get overexcited about the tax cut and see that, things may not be good for the market because Mr. Trump is dominating, and that is what is moving the rupee, that is what is moving the stock markets. We don't know how far that's going to go.
Such a brilliant point, sir. Thank you for...
But Swami sir, before we let you go, do you think the baton now changes from the Finance Ministry to RBI come 7th Feb? Can perhaps rate easing A happen? And if that were to happen, can it sort of, chug along the consumption cycle at least, if nothing else?
Let us see. I mean, the RBI is supposed to be independent on this particular thing. The RBI will ensure enough liquidity. But, as far as the rupee is concerned, I would say the RBI should not intervene beyond a point. I think already we have spent too large a proportion of our reserves trying to defend the rupee. The rupee is going to go down along with all the other emerging markets. What are we achieving if the rupee is appreciating in relation to all our competitors in Asia? They are getting more competitive than us. So, the idea that the rupee is strong gives some people a feeling, I'm macho. Be clear out here, everybody is going down. There is nothing to be gained by keeping the rupee artificially high. I would say the RBI, therefore, should not be wasting large sums of money on this particular process. Allow it to fall in orderly fashion to whatever level.
Thank you, Swami sir. Always a pleasure and a delight to have you on ET Now, and thank you for the first word and the last word and really giving a different dimension to today's budget analysis. While the talking point for many days would be tax cut, but the real story for market really could be what happens on Saturday night rather than what has happened on Saturday afternoon, because Donald Trump and the tariffs would be implemented from 1st of Feb starting tonight.